So how's it going, guys? Recording another episode of the Vicious Cycle podcast here. What is the day? Today is the 26th of January 2015. School just started last week. Last week was the first week back from break, from my long 5-week break. But 5 weeks sounds pretty long, but it went rather quickly. I'm doing this podcast and video as well too, because I just recently got a camera for my photography class, so I'm going to use that, see how that looks. Shoots in 1080p, it's pretty sweet, so excited to have that. I really wanted to get a camera, and now I had a purpose, so got a Canon PowerShot 520 SX, I think it is, 520, something like that. But anyway, I got, the class just started last week, so I'm in my second week now, and just getting into the swing of things. But today I made a list of my 20 favorite albums of all time. So I'm gonna go through all the albums I have written down here. I'm gonna list my favorite 2 songs and my least favorite track on the album, and talk a little bit on the album and what it means to me. And then I have like a list of honorable mentions. So let's get into it. So first off, right off the bat, my favorite album of all time from my favorite band of all time is Tool, 10,000 Days. This, for me, this is just my favorite album by them, and like I said, my favorite album of all time. My favorite song, it's hard to pick. I would probably say Rosetta Stone, and my number 2 would probably be Zombie, but Vicarious, The Pot, 10,000 Days, even Right Into are all right behind. For me, I think I want to say it's their heaviest album, but it's not their most aggressive album. I would say Undertow is Tool's most aggressive album, but I think this and Lateralis are probably the most experimental. Definitely the hardest to play, the most progressive of all of their albums is definitely 10,000 Days, and Lateralis are their most progressive albums, I would say. There are some parts in 10,000 Days where as a band it would be really hard to cover, especially in Zombie, Vicarious, all of Rosetta Stone. Just the guitar work, the bass work, the drum work, the vocal work, it's just unmatched, I think. Some amazing stuff going on in this album. I really like the way the album flows together, even with the Liebe Conjuring thing in there, because I wasn't a big fan of the interludes on Lateralis, like Eon Blue Apocalypse and Mantra. I wasn't a big fan of those, but I think Liebe Conjuring sounds pretty cool. And Intention, not Intention, Lost Keys is an awesome interlude to Rosetta Stone, and that's part of the reason why it's one of my favorite songs. I love the story behind that song, and Lost Keys just sets it up perfectly. So that's definitely, I would say Rosetta Stone's probably my favorite song on the album. But yeah, just the whole way that the guitar tone on this album, the bass tone, the drums, Maynard's vocals, all of it, it's just perfect. If I could have one guitar tone, it would probably be 10,000 Days guitar tone. It's my favorite sound. Yeah, I think my least favorite track though, like I was saying with the interludes and Lateralis, would probably be Vigenti Tres, which I think that's Latin for 23. I know there's some myths out there that if you mix Wings for Marie, 10,000 Days, and Vigenti Tres, you get like a new song, but I listened to it and it didn't sound that impressive to me. And on top of that, I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that Maynard said that's not, it's just a coincidence. They didn't actually do that on purpose. So that would probably be my least favorite track. Sorry about that. Number 2, Injustice for All. by Metallica. Yeah, that's my favorite Metallica album, obviously. But I think the thing with this album is, I remember reading what was it, Revolver Guitar World, with Adam Jones and Kirk Hammett on the cover of it, and Adam Jones said, I can't remember his words exactly, but he explained why Injustice for All was his favorite Metallica album. Probably because it's their most progressive album. But I think everyone's problem with this album is the bass, and I will admit that it is lacking, but like with 10,000 Days, the guitar tone and the drums just sound so killer that it kind of makes up for the bass. I mean, there's enough bass in the guitar tone to make up for the natural bass that should be in there. I mean, you can hear it, it's just not as heavy as Master of Puppets. And, you know, they had their reasons. They just lost Cliff Burton, and they weren't sure that Jason Newsted was the exact fit at the time, but man, I love this album. I love the long songs on it. I love the instrumental. So my favorite would probably be, or definitely would be Injustice for All. I think my number 2 I have written down is Blackened. Yeah, I would definitely, those were my top 2. And for least favorite, I don't know. I didn't write anything down. Maybe Eye of the Beholder. I bet that's such a good song too. I guess we'll go with that. But yeah, definitely Injustice for All is my number 2. Dyer's Eve. Oh, Dyer's Eve. Do I like that more than Blackened? Ooh, 3-way tie. No, 2-way tie. Injustice for All is my favorite, and Dyer's Eve and Blackened are definitely tied for second. Yeah. Gee, how the hell did I forget that? Anyway, moving on. My number 3 album of all time is Crack the Skye by Mastodon. Such a beautiful album. I love the fact that it's a concept album, and that was something they were big on in their earlier years. I mean, the story behind Crack the Skye should be a movie. I don't know why it's not. If you don't know what Crack the Skye is about, I would definitely look that up. It's a really cool story. I don't want to go into detail on it right now, but I really like the 2 long songs, The Czar and Last Baron. The Czar is definitely my favorite song in the album. Number 2, jeez, what did I write down? I didn't write anything down. Last Baron. I mean, I don't know if I could pick a least favorite. Least favorite would probably be Quintessence. I think that that one riff at the beginning, which is it's a rad riff, but I think they just overplayed it a little bit. But the guitar work on this album is just brilliant. I love the open chord arpeggios that they use. Like in the rhythm guitar and the solo of Oblivion, the intro to The Last Baron, some of the riffs in Crack the Skye, the riffs in The Czar. It's just such an amazing album. And the video of them live at the Brixton, whatever it is, just the video where they play this album front to back. It's spectacular. I mean, the vocals aren't the best in it, but still, they do not miss a note in their entire show. It's such a great video. I watch that all the time. Just them playing this album front to back, and I'm so jealous of everyone that was there. That would be such an awesome show. Every time I've seen them, they've played. One time they didn't play anything from Crack the Skye. That was a Mayhem Fest. I've seen them play Oblivion, and I've seen them play Divinations. I think that's the other 2. I would kill to see The Czar or The Last Baron live. That would be so amazing. They usually play Oblivion, which makes sense. That's one of their best songs. But yeah, something about this album just really, really amazes me. Definitely the way this album flows. I mean, for only 7 songs, it feels like a long album with the 2 really long tracks in it. Yeah, it's definitely An amazing album. Anyway, number 4, I have Dirt by Alice in Chains. And if I keep forgetting to look at the camera, that's because I've never done a video podcast before. So my apologies if you end up watching this on YouTube. I'll do my best to look at the camera. That's probably awkward, but anyway, favorite track on Dirt. This is another one of those albums that just the sound and the guitar tone. Yeah, beautiful. Damn That River, definitely. I keep saying that word, definitely. That's annoying me, so I knew it's annoying you guys. Anyway, Damn That River. I have that spelled wrong on here. What the hell? Anyway, Damn That River and, number 2, Rain When I Die, probably. It's a longer song. I like longer songs. Yeah, Rain When I Die. Least favorite track. I could say Sick Man because it's weird, but that or Godsmack. I don't know. I like Godsmack. Yeah, I like them both. But we'll go with Sick Man as my least favorite. Anyway, definitely my favorite Alice in Chains album. Obviously, I really feel the weird thing about this album is if you look at the album art, the desert and whatever, the dude in the desert. I think it's like the perfect album art for this album because it feels like it just has that feel to it, like the gritty, dirty, hot, especially Brewster. I mean, that's about the war in Vietnam. I just feel like listening to this album, it's like a summertime album, but not a happy summertime album. Like you're in the desert and it's 130 degrees and you're on a heroin binge, I guess, if you're Lane Staley. But yeah, I just think they nailed the album art on this album. Next, number 5 would be Ænima by Tool, another Tool album. Like I said, they're my favorite band. I think Ænima was the album where Tool started to get away from the grunge sound. I don't know how many people agree with me, but I think especially in Opiate and most of Undertow has a grunge sound to it. I mean, obviously that was the time period they were in with, Seattle, all the Seattle bands were booming. Undertow was 93 and Ænima was 96, which was 2 years after the death of Kurt Cobain, so grunge was not dead, but on its way out. And I think Tool started really turning into a progressive metal band, especially with songs like "Push It" and "Ænima," which those are my 2 favorite on the album. But then you have songs like "Hooker with the Penis," which is probably one of their heaviest tracks, one of their most aggressive tracks. And then you got the radio-friendly songs like Stinkfist and 46 and 2. But 46 and 2 is a very, very progressive song, I would say. There's some minimalism in it, but the whole bridge part with the drum solo in it, that part just blows my mind every time I listen to it. 46 and 2 is another one of my favorite songs, so that's going to be up there too. Least favorite, I guess I could just take the easy route and say Ions, because it's 4 minutes of static, but the cool thing about this album is watching it with, or listening to it with Nightmare Before Christmas. I've recently heard that you could do that with Laterals too. I've yet to do that. That would probably be pretty sweet. I don't know if they're similar in length. I guess they would have to be. That's something I'm going to look into. But anyway, yeah, definitely Ænima, number 5. Let's move along with number 6, The Great Stone War by Winds of Plague. Winds of Plague is probably my favorite, but definitely my favorite deathcore band. I would say they're my favorite band since like 2006. I mean, Decimate the Week came out in 2008, but I would say from that era on, 2006 on, they're probably my favorite band. I love that they tuned a standard, which is totally different from all the other bands in the scene. I think that's partially because they have a hardcore influence, which is awesome because they mix a hardcore sound with a black metal sound and a metalcore sound. But the symphonic elements in it, and I would say The Great Stone War is their most technical album. It's their most progressive album, and it's definitely their most straight up metal album. Does have some pretty awesome breakdowns in it, and a couple like Forged in Fire is definitely a hardcore influence song. I love that it's a concept album also. Favorite song, probably The Great Stone War or Chest and Horns. I know whenever I hear Chest and Horns, I get pumped up. And same thing with Great Stone War. I love the intro on Great Stone War. And this album. I love the intro Earth, and I love the outro Tides of Change. They definitely set the whole concept album fantasy, like Lord of the Rings aspect. Another album where the album art just is nailed. Perfect album art for this album. Least favorite track. I don't know if I have one. I guess I'll go with Creed of Tyrants. I don't know. This is tough. Creed of Tyrants, whatever. Move along. Number 7, Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer. A lot of people would probably say this is Slayer's most accessible album. This is probably the most singy album. I mean, Tom Araya doesn't really scream, but he definitely has. Tom Araya, it sounds like Tom Araya. There's no one out there that sounds like Tom Araya. But this is definitely their most singy album, I would say. If you knew it, it's hard to explain, but you know what I mean. It's probably their slowest album. An album like Rain and Blood, where every song on it is blazing fast. There's only a couple, like War Ensemble, Hollow Point, those are songs pretty fast, but there's some groove to this album, and that's probably why it's my favorite Slayer album. Seasons in the Abyss, definitely my favorite song on it. What do I have for number 2? I guess we'll go with Dead Skin Mask, and honestly, I don't think I have a least favorite track. There would probably be a tie. Blood Red? No, I don't have a least favorite track on this. It doesn't make it a perfect album, but I don't think it's pretty close to perfect. Yeah, I think everything I've listened so far is pretty close to a perfect album. So we'll just move along. Number 8. So number 8 would be Liebe ist für Alle da by Rammstein. It's a favorite Rammstein album. Ich tue dir weh it's probably my top 10 songs of all time if I end up doing that list. The groove and the chorus of this album just really hit me strong. That and Wiener Blut, the story behind it is pretty creepy and awesome. Definitely look into that. Least favorite track, Frühling in Paris. If you listen to it, you'll know why. Next up, number 9. If you're a Slipknot fan, this is probably your least favorite Slipknot album. I don't know why even the band has trouble with this album or problems with this album, but All Hope Is Gone is my favorite Slipknot album. Geometry of the Killing Name and All Hope Is Gone are tied for my favorite songs on the album. All Hope Is Gone is probably the heaviest Slipknot song they've ever written. Heaviest Slipknot song. Number 3, or number 2, because I tied them. Sulfur Psychosocial, Gehenna. Gehenna, we'll go with that. Least favorite track, Snuff. That's all I have to say about that album. And to round out number 10, we have Tool's Undertow. I did talk a little bit about this earlier. I think it's such a grunge sound. I think it's similar to Dirt. I think they came out within a year of each other. Just a really definitive album for the band. Probably one of the best debut albums of all time that I can think of. Number 1 would be Bottom. Number 2 would be Crawl Away. Least favorite, Disgustipated. And that's that. Number 11, Bleeding Through. Really, really heavy. Probably their heaviest album. Their most black metal album. The symphonics in this album are beautiful. Favorite song would be Salvation Never Found. Number 2, do I have number 2? Jeez. I mean, you got Anti-Hero, Your Abandonment, 15 Minutes, Salvation Never Found, Breathing in the Wrath, This Time Nothing is Sacred, Divide the Armies, Drag Me to the Ocean, Lay My Eyes, Slow Your Roll, Distortion, Devotion. There's not a weak track on this album, so favorite, Salvation Never Found. Don't have a number 2. Least favorite, just be the intro. We'll go with that. A Resurrection on that. That's an awesome intro too. Move along. Number 2, Deftones Adrenaline. There's a strong, definitely a strong debut. I think I see why this album definitely put Deftones in the new metal scene, but they set themselves apart later in their career. But really awesome album. Number 1, Birthmark. Number 2, Minus Blindfold, I guess. Least favorite, For Real. Yeah, we'll go with that. Least favorite would be For Real, but oh my god, Engine number 9, geez, Brood, Bored, all good songs. I mean, For Real's even a good song. This is another really close to a perfect album. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't put this in my top 10, to be honest. It's number 12. Anyway, number 13, Whitechapel, New Era of Corruption. Not a concept album, but most of the songs revolve around the same idea of just the world we live in, and the corruption and the greed, and there's kind of this idea of, they talk about, like, in my idea, it's almost like a Terminator thing where machines are going to take over, something like that. That's just what I get from it. I think the whole album has a very mechanical, industrial sound to it, which is awesome. I'll go with Reprogrammed to Hate. Chino Moreno from Deftones is in that song. This part's awesome. Number 2 would be Unnerving. I really love the synths at the beginning of the track, and it opens up with that blast beat. So awesome. Really awesome breakdown in this song. And I don't know if I have a least favorite. Did I write one down? A Future Corrupt maybe, but it's another really, really strong album, start to finish. This is one I like to put in when I'm driving. Just listen to it, start to finish while I'm driving. It's a good driving album, I think. We'll move along. 14, Death is the Only Mortal by the Acacia Strain. I think this album set themselves in a new direction. I think for people that had problems with Acacia Strain, in my opinion, if you had a problem with Acacia Strain before this album, this is the album to listen to. There's a clear Meshuggah influence on the album, I would say, which is awesome. They do some on-time signature stuff, some like polyrhythms, the guitar work, the production. This is definitely their best sounding production, and one of the best sounding production I've ever heard. Number one, this is tough. See, I wrote down Chamber Nautilus and Brain Death as my 1 and 2, but I don't know, Doom. We'll just go with those since I wrote them down. And least favorite, I'll just go with Time of Death and God because it has a long ambient part in the middle, which I like. I'll just put it as my least favorite because of that. Anyway, number 15, Machine Head's The Blackening. A really awesome thrash album. Short in number, 8 tracks, but you got first song on it's 10 minutes, and then it ends with 2 9-minute and another 10-minute songs, but another 10-minute song. Favorite song, Halo, one of the best choruses ever written in my opinion. Clenching the Fist of Dissent, so many awesome riffs in that, and I don't have a least favorite. Anyway, next up, Pantera is The Great Southern Trendkill. Most people's favorite Pantera albums would probably be Cowboys from Hell, and if it's not that, it's obviously Vulgar Display, but I think Great Southern Trendkill is their heaviest album. Pantera is one of the few bands I can think of that got heavier as they progressed in their career. It's amazing how heavy this album is for Pantera standards. From 1996, this is probably, other than death metal bands, is probably one of the heaviest albums out in 1996, I would say. Favorite songs, Suicide Note Part 2, which is probably Pantera's heaviest song they've ever written, and Great Southern Trendkill, another one of their super heavy songs with that awesome freaking blues riff that they play towards the end of the song. It just completely changes up the whole song. Oh, it's so awesome. And least favorite, I mean, I could go with Tens, but I really like that song too. I'll just say because that's the weakest song on the album. Yeah, we'll go with Tens. Next up, Master of Puppets. Relatively low on my list, 17. But I guess that is pretty low. I don't know. I guess I would. If I had a chance to revise this list, I'd probably bump that up. What do I say about Master of Puppets? What do you say about Master of Puppets? Do I need to say anything about it? I'm really at a loss for words. Oh my god. Okay, let me try and not wreck this podcast. I'm trying to bring up Master of Puppets on my iTunes so I can read it. Okay. Favorite song, we'll go with the heaviest song on the album, Damage Inc. Jeez. Do I have a least favorite? No. I don't have a favorite word or least favorite. I take that back. Every song on it. Yeah, alright, sorry. Master of Puppets is number 17, that's all I need to say. And, I'll do the same with this album, Rain and Blood, number 18, right after that. Both those albums probably should be bumped up. Yeah. They definitely should. Oh well. Too late. Rain and Blood, maybe Angel of Death, but we'll just leave it at that. Number 19, Leviathan by Mastodon. And that's most people's favorite Mastodon album. But Correct the Skye just definitely, in my opinion, is better. But I understand why a lot of people, such a groundbreaking album. If you don't consider Remission their debut album because it's not on a major label, there's another great, like Spotlight debut album. Iron Tusk favorite, number 2 would have to be Blood and Thunder or Megalodon, and least favorite, Show Some Merrick. awesome concept album. I mean, who other than Mastodon could make Moby Dick an awesome metal album? But like, that's my top 20 albums of all time, and I think that's a pretty good list. I would say these are definitely the albums I listen to most, and my order might be towards the end. My order got off a little bit. Oh, that was 19. Whoa, 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 whoa! Back it up. The Anti-Mother by Norma Jean versus the Anti-Mother, which is actually the correct title. But yeah, that's my favorite Norma Jean album. Definitely, other than, I mean, in Redeemer you could see where they were going, but Anti-Mother definitely set them off into it. Definitely a more post-hardcore sound, which I'm not a post-hardcore fan, but post-hardcore fan by any means. But yeah, this album, my favorite Norma Jean album. Viper Snakes and Actors, and geez, Death of the Anti-Mother. I think there's some real especially Death of the Anti-Mother, there's some real sludgy parts in that song, and Viper Snakes and Actors. And there will be Swarm of Hornets. There's some sludge in that, which is awesome. Least favorite, I'll go with Discipline Your Daughters, because that's probably their most post-hardcore sounding song, other than Self-Employed Chemist. But Self-Employed Chemist is one of my favorites too, so I love that Chino's on a couple of tracks. Paige Hamilton from Helmet helped out too, and that's all I have to say about that album. I did come up with the honorable mentions because I realized I didn't put Lateralis in my top 20, and I think partially I did that because I didn't. That'd be four Tool albums and 20 songs, which, I mean, if that's my favorite, it's my favorite. But I didn't want to be extremely biased because that's my favorite band, so I just left them up as an honorable mention. But I will say the song Lateralis is my favorite song of all time, and Ticks and Leeches is right up there with that too, and that's the heaviest Tool song I've ever written. So that's my number one honorable mention, and then I just got a list of other honorable mentions, and some are in two because it's a band, and two albums. Okay, I have Static Age / Famous Monsters, because I didn't really take the time to break them down song by song to see which one I liked more, so I just went Static Age / Famous Monsters, and Misfits are my top 5 favorite bands, so I needed to talk about a Misfits album, but yeah, I'll go Static Age / Famous Monsters, back to Mastodon, Blood Mountain / The Hunter. I probably like Blood Mountain more, but I really love The Hunter, minus The Creature Lives. I think that's Mastodon's worst song. Anyway, another one, Slipknot and Iowa. Probably would give the edges to Slipknot, but there's another super strong freaking debut album. I could do a list of debut albums. That'd be cool. And Rage Against the Machine. And if that's a debut album, yeah, that's a debut album. Jeez, I didn't write that down, but I totally forgot that. I forgot another album. System of a Down, Toxicity. Jeez, how did I forget that? That should be in my top 20. Yeah. Wow. Decimate the Weak, another super strong debut album, Winds of Plague, The Discovery by Born of Osiris, Unto the Locust by Machine Head, White Pony / Diamond Eyes. I didn't take the time to break down which one I like more. Maybe Diamond Eyes, maybe White Pony. I mean, White Pony has Passenger and Digital Bath, House of Flies. Diamond Eyes has Diamond Eyes, Risk. You've Seen the Butcher. That's a debate I could have with myself all day probably. The Truth / Declaration from Bleeding Through. The Truth has I really love the hardcore sound to that album. They definitely had less production in that, but it works. I think if that album had more production, it wouldn't be as good. And a lot of people call that their sellout album, but I think that's just because before that, Bleeding Through didn't have many songs with sing-song choruses in it, but I don't see this album nearly as a sellout album. Bleeding Through is another band that probably got heavier as it went on, and honestly, Bleeding Through's sing-song choruses really set the tone for metalcore, and most modern metalcore bands, they definitely made a mold, and Bleeding Through does not get the credit they deserve. One of the best metal bands, metalcore bands, hardcore bands, whatever you want to call them, of all time, and it's sad to see that they're broken up. But that's another subject I could talk about all night. So those two albums, Constellations by Arsman's Red, I used to listen to that all the time, and another album, an honorable mention, even though I think in recent years I've kind of lost my love for this band, but Indestructible by Disturbed. I was just, when I was making this list, I revisited that album for a little bit, and I think, in my opinion, it holds up. That's a strong album, I would say. I don't care what anyone says about Disturbed. That's their best album. Not their most aggressive, but it's probably their heaviest album. They definitely just lost the aggression that they had on their debut album, The Sickness. Jeez. But I think they picked up some more aggression in Indestructible, and I think that that's the best guitar work and the best drum work in all of Disturbed. Yeah, awesome album in my opinion. And then I just wrote on here the two albums that are most responsible for getting me into music and metal, hard rock, whatever you want to call it. First album I ever listened to on my own was Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, and second album I can most vividly remember from my childhood is City of Evil by Avenged Sevenfold. Both albums hold up